Buddhism has a saying, there is no wealth like knowledge, there is no poverty like ignorance. Today we begin an extraordinary three-part series, The Wizards of Dalal Street, 35 years, by asking the question, are great investors born or can they be taught? Quiet, self-effacing and modest almost to a fault, he's the kind of guy who's lived and breathed Dalal Street for over 35 years. Let's go meet the iconic founder of Corporate Database, Durgesh Shah. Durgesh bhai, thank you so much for one of your rare television appearances and agreeing to come on Wizards of Dalal Street.
Very happy to have you here, Flame.
Thank you, Durgesh bhai. We're sitting at the seat of great learning that Flame University hopes to become. Let's learn about markets. I talked to Sunil Singhania a few episodes earlier, and he said that he felt like a zebra in lion country, meaning that nature taught him a lot about markets. You also believe that markets are essentially a subset of nature, don't you?
Very clearly, the laws of the markets you will understand very easily if you understand the laws of the nature, or the other way, if you understand laws of nature, you will clearly start beginning to. To start with, Rag and Dvesh is the commonality in nature. You conquer that and you have conquered. You become a person who knows yourself.
Rag meaning attachment and Dvesh meaning hatred?
Exactly. Same thing in the markets. You just need to conquer greed and fear, and you're there. Half the battle is won.
Between, say, temperament, knowledge, and experience, what is the most important thing for a good investor to have?
I would think it's obviously temperament first, experience thereafter, and knowledge.
That's surprising. Everyone says knowledge is all important.
I agree with you. In fact, the problem is that it is overrated. Any child is told that go and do an engineering degree, go to an MBA school, and then you will be all set to become a good investor. However, if you go down to see corporate performance or performance in the stock market with relationship to knowledge and temperament, let's take the example of HPCL. We all know a large investor, proprietary investor, took a large position a few years ago. I'm very sure that he knows less about Hindustan Petroleum than most analysts who cover a company on the street. However, at a certain point in time, the basic understanding that at this price, there is enough he knows for him to buy the stock. There was a complete disbelief in a PSU in the fact that this was a company which is going to get eaten up by the new private entrants, the subsidies of the government, the cash flow issues.
The wisdom was knowing the difference between an HPCL and an MTNL?
Exactly, that he knew what he need to know of buying this share at this price. He can't lose money. How much he would make, how soon he will make may probably not have been important. And that is clearly the important thing. You mentioned about Buddha talking about knowledge. In one of his sermons, Buddha mentions that whatever I'm talking to you is like a handful of leaves compared to my knowledge, which is the whole of this forest. The fact is you only need to know that much for salvation in the real world, or when it comes to market, to know that this is what you need to know and then go out and act, more than doing analysis paralysis beyond a point.
And markets are not just about ratios and cash flows, they're also about psychology and greed and fear and history and geography.
I agree completely that Flame is a school of liberal arts, and I think investing is the ultimate liberal art. You need to know enough about economics, but without psychology, economics is incomplete. You need to know about history, you need to know about geography, communications, all of it.
You need to know about history because the pendulum always swings. Whether it's in history, empires are born, become great, fall. So do stocks, so do companies, so do investors.
Cycles, very clearly. In fact, the interesting part of the markets is that corporate performance also moves in pendulums, like we talk about cycles everywhere, but that pendulum movement is not that large for most cases. Cyclical companies have a little wider, but corporate performance or the stock market performance will clearly go much beyond the pendulum swings of corporate performance.
Price discounts everything, but give me an example of a second level thinking that you've seen in your career.
The best example would be 1988, starting with the Madhu Dandavate budget, who was considered to be a socialist, going on to the assassination of Rajiv Gandhi, going up to a situation where we literally country had to pledge gold to get foreign exchange.
Under the Chandrasekhar government.
All the Gulf War, all the things that the world saw were going wrong for India. There were these few guys on Dalal Street who had the faith.
The 3 R's I call them, and 1 N.
The way things are going wrong, this will only get better for the investor. The country will move in its behavior from a pendulum to do things which it should have done anyway, and rest is history. The Sensex went up from 380 in 1988 to 4,500 in April 1992.
April 2, 1992. But here's the question I want to ask you, Dhirubhai Bhai. The first level thinking, bad headlines, so the market will be bad, sell. What does the second level thinking do?
It goes on to think that, okay, whatever is in the news, is it discounted in the price? And can all these people who are rushing out finally realize that enough is enough? So the pendulum will surely at some point have to come back, and rarely the pendulum comes back to fair price and stops. So you're going to get a swing which is positive, and that is something that most of these guys got it right, that it is underpriced and it won't come back to fair price, it's going to go to overpriced zone.
Which we saw on April 2nd, 1992 at 4,500.
I think that was clearly the first large phase of wealth creation for a lot of Indians after independence.